My name is Eric Shabazz, and you're listening to the Invisible Hand Podcast. The world's ran by human nature, self-interest, and power. Let's get into it. Until a baby is separated physically from a woman's body, I think that woman should have 100% autonomy over her body. What's going on, everybody? Invisible Hand Podcast, and today we're going to be talking about Roe versus Wade being overturned, has been sent back to the states for individual states to decide basically the fate of young women all over the country and if they're going to be able to have an abortion. Now, I personally think it's going to be a disaster. I think you cannot regulate human nature, and what's going to happen is Roe versus Wade is going to cause the same thing that happened in the 1920s in Prohibition when they tried to ban alcohol. People are not going to listen, and underground abortion clinics are going to pop up all over the country. Let's get into the details. So, before we get started, let's be very clear about what was actually overturned. The Supreme Court overturned the landmark 1973 Roe versus Wade decision that said Americans have a constitutional right to an abortion in the U.S. states and territories. Courts believe abortion rights should be determined by individual states. Now, as I said, they shot it back to the states. Now states get to decide. They said that this law should not be a part of the Constitution. Now, here's my thing. First of all, this decision is very unpopular. 51% of the country don't believe this should happen. Furthermore, they actually done a poll before this decision was actually made, and it read, the latest poll released on Wednesday before the actual decision showed that by more than double, 61% of people to 28% of people of who was surveyed oppose overturning abortion. So what this says to me is that there's a precursor that when this actually is implemented over the next couple months and women start to actually need abortion in these states that have banned them, that's when it's going to get real. And what you're going to see based on the survey that this is not popular, and you cannot stop people from something as fundamental as having kids. Now, let me break down to you why I think this is going to be very similar to Prohibition. The closest parallel that might give us insight into the Post-Roe America is Prohibition. In the 1920s, after a lone campaign by temperance organizations across the nation, the states ratified the 18th Amendment to the Constitution, banning the production, importation, transportation, and sale of alcohol. The intent of the amendment was to protect the public from negative effects of alcohol, but in reality, it did little to achieve the goal. Drinking Americans, for the large part, didn't meekly comply, but instead continued to consume alcohol produced, imported, transported, and sold through the black market. Prohibition marked the rise of the mafia era in the United States. By 1933, Americans were convinced Prohibition had been a terrible mistake. The unintended consequences proved far worse than the benefit it was supposed to deliver. Later, the 21st Amendment was ratified in December of that year, overturning the 18th Amendment. Happy days were there in America in the 1920s. So you get my point. Overall, even when they tried to regulate morality in some ways back in the 1920s, because they're saying, hey, look, alcohol's not good for you, but you're trying to take free choice away. And this is the same thing here with abortion. They're trying to essentially regulate morality. Most of the time throughout history, when our government tried to regulate morality, it has failed. Look at the drug war. What are you trying to regulate? Morality. Should you damage your body? Should you hurt your body? Should you use drugs? People don't listen. Drug sales go underground, so that don't work. When they try to regulate the sex trade and prostitution, people have sex. And when people can't get sex, they'll buy sex. They go underground if they need to do it. You can't regulate it. The thing is with abortion is it's still part of sex. Human beings want to have sex and will continue to have sex. And no law, whether it's federal or controlled by the state, is going to stop people from having sex. But here's the thing. When women are pregnant and they decide they do not want the kid, there's no force on earth that's going to force them to have a kid that they do not want. It's connected to the same human nature that drives people for sex and the use of drugs and alcohol. Human beings want to change how they feel and enjoy the pleasures of sex, and they will continue to do it. And when they have a kid, when a woman gets pregnant and she does not want to have that kid, what's going to happen with this new Roe versus Wade law is a systematic process that go as follows. The women who live in states that cannot get the abortion will go to other states. Over time, so many women are going to go to other states where other states that do allow abortion won't be able to afford it. What's going to happen then is those states are going to start to reject those women or start charging for those abortions. For the women who cannot afford those abortions in the states that ban abortion, what's going to happen is there's going to be, just like the drug trade, just like the sex trade, people or doctors or other illegal entities that offer abortion under the table. What's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of women get hurt, maybe women even die. Over time, society is not going to like the result of this decision, and they're going to have to go back and rethink legislating basically morality, not allowing women to have abortions. And this issue will not be settled, and we're far from the end of it. Now, I want to make a big point about human nature and how you cannot regulate it. If you think about it, other than the freedom of speech, the First Amendment, the ultimate autonomy a human being has is over their actual body. What's the opposite of having autonomy over your body? The opposite of having autonomy over our actual bodies is being a slave. Well, in American history, there were slaves, and it's one of the most immoral things you could do to a human being outside of actually killing them. So we know it's not okay to have slaves, but why is it not a constitutional right to have autonomy over your body? If you think about it, in the First Amendment, they say that you have freedom of speech, religion, press, assembly, and petition. But why would you not include in the First Amendment that you should have freedom over your body, autonomy over your body? I'll prove to you why it's more important than even freedom of speech or anything else on that list. Because what you believe in religion could potentially hurt you if you basically discriminate against other people who don't share your religion. So freedom of religion does allow you to practice your beliefs as long as you don't encroach on other people. Okay, fair enough. Freedom of speech allows you to say whatever you want, but technically you can hurt somebody by what you say, right? You can say some bad things. You can say some discouraging things. You can make up lies that can hurt people's reputation. So technically you can hurt people even with your freedom of speech. Let's think about freedom of press. You can write things that are untrue that hurt other people. So technically, even though you have the right to create a press, you could hurt other people with freedom of press. Well, let's see, freedom of assembly. Well, you can assemble and petition things that could potentially hurt or subjugate or control or shut down other things, right, by boycotting. But freedom of autonomy of your body doesn't allow you to hurt anybody else. It just means that you have the right to do what you please to your body. If you want to put drugs in your body and hurt yourself, you can. If you want to slit your wrists, you can. If you want to take your own life, you can. If you want to tattoo all over your body, you can. And I personally think that that should be the number one fundamental human right, freedom and the right to exist and autonomy over one's own body. And the reason that this law that allows certain states to do not allow women to have abortion, it's so bad is because you're basically saying a woman does not have autonomy over her own body. I believe all human beings came into this world through the grace of God, and the one thing they do have that they should be able to control, because they are not slaves and they are free, is their actual body. Who is any of us to tell a woman what she can do with something growing in her body? Now, until we get far in the future and understand genetics at a higher level, I believe that a woman should be able to control if she gives life. Therefore, if she's able to give life, she should have the right to take it, long as it's inside of her body. What makes you an individual human being is you have an individual mind and an individual body. Until a baby is separated physically from a woman's body, I think that that woman should have 100% autonomy over her body. God gave her the right to create kids, so therefore she have the right to decide not to at any time, long as that baby is no longer a part of her body. The minute they cut the umbilical cord, that baby is no longer part of her body, and the fate of that baby is up to that baby in society. Until that umbilical cord is cut, that is a part of that woman's body. She has freedom to autonomy over her body, and I don't think anybody on the planet, no matter what law, federal or local, should have the right to decide that. We're not far enough in technological innovation. We don't understand biology. We don't understand so many things yet to be ready to make that decision and take that away from people. So my personal opinion is freedom and autonomy over a human body is more important than all of the amendments, all of the Bill of Rights that are in the Constitution currently. It's fundamental to being human. Just like the reverse of freedom over your body would be to be a slave. And we know the history of America when it comes to that. My name is Arafat Shabazz. You've been watching the Invisible Hand Podcast. Till next time, my friends.
The future of legal betting is finally here. Place a bet using Bitcoin right over the phone. Unlike traditional gambling sites, every bet you make with us is guaranteed a 50% probability of winning. All of our bets are one-on-one against a real person and never the house. We offer some of the most unique bets in the industry. Bets like, will LeBron James win his 5th NBA title? Will Joe Biden be elected for a second term? Will Tesla be worth $1 trillion by the end of 2022? You can bet on if it'll rain tomorrow. You can literally bet on any future event. Text the phrase I bet to the number in the description and I'll reply back with all of our available bets. Again, text the phrase I bet to the number in the description and I'll reply back with all of our available bets today.